All right, we're counting down to case study number 6 of this series, so brilliantly titled Kirk's 40 Case Study Closings. I know. I'm your host, Ryan Kirk, and these case studies range from vacant lots to custom luxury homes and total $2,042,081.71 in profits and equity without having personally gone to see the property on some. And with no cash, no credit of my own. It varies, and I'll explain. And I do it all with Flip Logic and 1-888 cash offer. Now let's get into number 6 of the 40 case studies. And that brings us to 3505 Talbot in San Diego, California. Talbot is actually in Point Loma, which is that point right at the top of the San Diego Bay. Beautiful area, really cool, love it a lot. I get down there because my folks have a sailboat, 45-foot hunter sailboat in the Shelter Island Marina at Humphreys by the bay. It's a hotel. It's kind of like a, what do they call it, a Tahitian, like Tahiti type looking hotel. And they've got an outdoor concert venue. Small, I think it's like 500 seats. But it sits right there to where the harbor, you can see in from the harbor, kind of like a Candlestick Park in San Francisco Bay. So you can actually see in from the harbor, and they get really cool world-class acts. And I'm actually going to go watch Jimmy Buffett on the 18th, which is, I guess, 2 weeks from today. And I'm going to watch him do a concert. So I'm pretty psyched about that. I don't think you could see a better concert on the water, by the water, than Jimmy Buffett. I'm sure you'd agree with me on that. All right, let's get into it. So what you notice here on Talbot, this property didn't have any structural damage. It was just cosmetic. And as you can see from the interior photo, it was all original, right? So, and it was livable. You probably could, I'm sure you could finance it so that wouldn't have been an issue. So it's definitely livable. But it's all original, so it's still going to cost quite a bit of money to improve it, even cosmetically, because if you look at the ARV, it's $1.5 million property. So to get it to $1.5 million, you're going to have to. You can't use cheap finishes. You've got to use, high-end appliances, high-end finishes. Probably a high-end front door, high-end garage door. Maybe not necessarily, because it's not like a showcase piece in the front of the house. It's actually on the back on an alley. So, but overall, you're going to need to spend money on finishes, on high-end finishes. So because of that, we use $60 a square foot, which, honestly may end up being on the high side. It's quite possible if you were to get a bid done, maybe you could do it at $40 a foot. Maybe you could do it at $50 a foot. We put $60 a foot. That should definitely cover it. And I'll follow up on that too, just to ask the investor to see how that turned out for him. So to be continued on that. So the lead type, it's a vacant rental. It was a rental. Sellers owned it, I think, for maybe like 15, 20 years, and place went vacant. They're an out-of-state absentee owner, which is great because when you're dealing with an out-of-state absentee owner, a property that's, further away than maybe just a couple of hours can become very painful for the seller when it comes to property management, when it comes to dealing with tenants, maintenance, any of that. Yeah, they can hire a property manager, but when it comes to single family houses, most mom and pop type owners, meaning they just own a few rentals, they're most likely going to manage it themselves, most likely, to save on costs. And so because of that, having rentals, you would think if you don't own any rentals and you've never been a landlord, you might think, well, man, that's a great thing and no big deal if it's that far away. Wait till you get into the rental business. You find that it's very painful to have to deal with a property when you have tenants, because there's always something happening, and if you're not nearby or you don't have property management nearby to take care of it, it rolls back on you, and the further you are away, the more painful the property becomes, and the more motivated of a seller they become. So there you go. The lead origin, this actually was referred to us by an agent of ours. I think he found it because it was just listed on the market. So it was one day on market. You could duplicate that same lead generation or origination by using instant seller leads in FlipLogic. So if you were to use instant seller leads by agent, you would have found this property if you would have checked that same day in that market when it went first day on market. All right, property condition. Cosmetic rehab, we covered that. Motivation, they want to liquidate. ARV, you run your comps and you would have come up with a 1.55 ARV. When it comes to higher end comps like this, you really need to pay attention to the other comps. You got to make sure that similar views, if there's any views on your subject property or on the comps, right? So views can be a huge price swing. Sometimes style or layout of the property, and also the lot size. So and then whether it's on a busy street or not. So all things to keep in mind when you're looking at more custom type homes or just higher ARV type homes, because it's not like a tract home where they're all pretty much the same. These little things can make hundreds of thousands of dollars of a difference in the ARV. Repairs, we covered that. We estimated $60 a square foot for high-end cosmetic finishes, and we'll check in with our investor once he's done with that to see how that turned out. The purchase price, this hit the market, I think it was at 1.1. It went on the market pretty high, and we were able to use the law of reciprocity with the seller. If we were to pay all cash, pay all the closing costs except commissions, that's on the seller to cover, and we closed in 14 days, what's the best price you can do? We, at the time, even though it was, and you could look up the price history on this, I believe it was on at 1.1, maybe 1.15, somewhere in there, maybe $1,050,000. I remember we got it pretty close to the listing price, and after going through our due diligence, through our inspections, which we facilitate by having our investors go through there, and they take their general contractor and come up with their hard costs by their scope of work, and then they get back to us on the feedback, and you got to take that with a grain of salt, but that's what they our investor we used on this had given us the feedback of, that it was going to cost them about $150,000 in repairs. So we had to go back to the seller and let them know, hey, this is going to be much more expensive than what we thought. We were thinking, this maybe could be closer to $40 a square foot. So it caused a pretty big price swing there. And in order for him to get his ROI and for us to make a profit, we got the seller to agree to come down to $937,500 in exchange for us removing all contingencies that day and closing, on time. So that's how we were able to take our existing contract price and adjust it to where it turned a no deal into a deal. And I'll show you why. Because if you go to how much our investor paid $990. So he actually ended up paying less than what the listing price was. So at the contract price that we had it at, there was no deal. So we had to get the price adjustment by sharing that due diligence with the seller in order to turn a no deal into a deal. And if you look at our profit margin on it, $52,500, it turned in from a no deal into an incredible deal. So very cool. And then how we funded it, we put it under contract. We used an assignment agreement and assigned it to a cash buyer. And that's why we were able to profit dollar for dollar from the $937,500 to the $990 without having to pay any closing costs, because that assignment carries all those closing costs with it to our investor, and then we get the pure dollar for dollar difference on that, what we had under contract for to what we assigned it for. That's pretty much covers it. I hope that was good for you as it was for me. So hey, statistically, only 10% of YouTube videos are watched until the end. If you are in that 10%, you're a hustler. You're persistent, determined to succeed, and I really do wish you much success. So thanks for watching, and I look forward to working with you.